Greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of greeting across this vast, wonderful multiverse. Hello, 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 my dear scholars. I hope you're all well tonight. I am Matsu Quinox, and this is Horace, my dear companion. You might see that. Oh, hello there, Julian. Wonderful to see you here. Hello, MJD. Wonderful to see you as well. And Jewelry Jelly and Private Maverick, I'm both so glad to see you here. You might notice I'm in a different location tonight. Oh, hello there, Time Sage. I hope you are well. This location that I'm in, it is part of the study. Oh, greetings, Dr. Zadium. I hope you're doing so well. It's wonderful to see you here as well. Yes, my dear friends. This location, as you can see, is a little different than our usual place. It is still part of the study, but it's a very special location. Let us put it that way. I rarely go in here but once a day, and if that, only for a few hours. But I thought I've told you all so many stories, so many folk tales, novels, so many journeys across the wonderful landscape of fiction. Oh, hello there, alchemist. I am honored to have you here. I hope you are well as well. As I was saying, I've been here. I've told you so many stories, so many tales of wonder, adventure, comedy, drama, all manner of tales. But the one story I haven't told is my own. And I thought that after all these months, maybe it was time to open up a little bit. So here I am in this very special location with a very special book, as you can see. And I am ready to tell you all there is about me. Not just the stories of where I came from, but also smaller information about myself, about my friends, about, well, who I am, about the special location that I live in, or rather exist in. All that will come tonight. And if I have a little bit of time, I might even tell my very favorite folk tale of all time, just as a way to close out our wondrous evening. So I hope you're all prepared for this. Are you all sitting comfortably? If not, I suggest maybe prop up a pillow or two. I mean, as you can tell, this place doesn't exactly have the most comfortable sitting areas. Oh, I am so glad, Julian and Private Maverick, that you are. If you can find yourself a hot drink, that'll be perfect. Or a cold drink, whatever you feel like. Perhaps it is time I should start. I mean, I shouldn't keep you all waiting now, should I? Firefly, you're making dinner. Well, I hope it's wonderful. I hope it's a fantastical dinner and that you enjoy it thoroughly. So then, with a little hydration, I think maybe we should begin with my tale. So it's time to pull back the curtains of this universe. And maybe I hope you'll find this of some interest. And I might pause once in a while to explain a few things. Julian 20. Sadly, my dinners have to eliminate certain metals. I see, I see. You're on a specialized meal service. Well, I hope nonetheless it's serving you well. So then let us see. I may stop once in a while to explain further information, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I will answer them in due course, whatever they may be. So you might find some secrets revealed, some revelations of the outside omniverse shown. But nonetheless, it is time for me to tell you the legend of Matsu Quinox. In the beginning, there was nothing but emptiness and void. There was no existence, only shadow and shade. There was no matter, no chaos, no concepts that you might know of, no dreams, no ambitions, nothing. There was simply emptiness and void. And then the great eye opened. Where it came from, no one knew. Where it was, if it had been created, no one knew. It was there at the beginning and there before all others. And from it poured forth the omniverse. A billion trillion multiverses, of which contained a billion trillion universes within. And within these universes, there were contained many worlds, some of which there arose that most amazing of events, life, and even greater still, intelligent life. Yes, that includes your world, all the worlds you could imagine, every world you have ever dreamed of. If you have written a story, it's there. If you have drawn a picture, it's there. If you have imagined, it was there. I'm sure that to some of you that is not the most comforting thought, but know that anything, any thought, any imagination is born out across the omniverse. However, the great eye looked upon these beings and saw them without wisdom, trapped in shadow worlds of empty thoughts. A very, very dire situation. Firefly, great and terrible that is. It is. It is. The thought for some that the very universes that they have created might actually exist can be a very scary one, but at the same time, it can be a very wondrous one. I mean, who knows? Perhaps your universe is one of those that was thought up by someone. I'm sure that is a quite frightening thought to some. And so, the great eye created the guardians of knowledge, and into them it poured all that it knew and sent them forth, three onto each multiverse. There are many of the guardians, which I will speak of later, but of each multiverse, across the trillions, only three are ever assigned. The guardians came upon the peoples of the omniverse, and to them shared the knowledge that had been given to them by the great eye, guiding and teaching gently all that they knew. So they did for millennia, none diverting from their task. Now they did not force this knowledge upon people, but rather allowed them to learn by their own pace. They simply stood by their side and watched over them and helped them along the way a little bit, as it were. They did this for countless times, for countless civilizations, some more successful than others, but all were given the chance. And they all did it without question, except for one. This I'm sorry, this memory is kind of painful for me a little bit. I need to pause a moment. One guardian in particular soon discovered an invention of the civilization that he taught. This invention was called the book. Soon he became enamored by this object. Not simply enamored, he became drawn to it, for he had never seen anything like it. Knowledge in such a small, insignificant item, yet full of the dreams, the imaginations of these peoples. Private Maverick, no boss, not the book. Yeah. I wish I could be more cheerful about that, but unfortunately, soon he soon abandoned his charges, growing more obsessed with these books, keeping his knowledge to none but himself, and so he thought himself safe. That was a mistake, I think. Really, in retrospect, that is what you could call a little bit of arrogance on the part of that guardian. He he thought, with so many guardians working across the multiverse at any one time, that he'd be safe, that no one would notice him, that no one would take heed of him, that he could just hide among the others, and that he could spend the rest of his time with his wonderful books, with his wonderful tales. He could be left alone, and he could just take the knowledge that he was given and just use it for himself. However, he was soon discovered. He wasn't sure if someone told the Great Eye or if the Great Eye had always known and had simply turned away, certain that he would return to his tasks, and had finally grown impatient with him. But nonetheless, in the end, all his hiding was for naught. The Great Eye discovered what he had done. The others discovered as well. The Guardian was brought before the Great Eye. He pleaded his case, begging his forgiveness, and proclaiming his innocence. I mean, all he was doing was reading books. He was simply taking the knowledge he had been given and enjoying it. I mean, there's no danger in that. There's no trouble in that, is there? I mean, you agree with me, don't you? There's nothing wrong with simply taking what you've been given and using it for yourself, is there? I mean, it might be a little bit selfish, but I'm sure you would agree that there's nothing wrong with that. Julian 20. Well, I I mean I mean certainly when he was brought before the Great Eye, he was a bit temperamental. I mean, think about it. If your coworkers in your job noticed that perhaps you weren't doing the fullest that you could do, and then brought it up to your boss, I mean, just the most minor infraction, and suddenly blew it into a huge issue, you'd be a little bit testy, wouldn't you? I mean, certainly you might slip up once or twice, say a few choice words that you didn't really mean to say, but they just came out. Firefly, there's knowledge in how you use it, also what you're ignoring or hurting by pursuing it. Yes, I suppose that's true. I suppose that's true. I mean, certainly this guardian was young compared to the others, at least in a way. I mean, perhaps he didn't learn all that he could. Perhaps he got a little overzealous with his defense. I mean, the least his fellow guardians could do was to speak a few kind words in his favor. I mean, you can understand that, right? At least. I mean, he did nothing too terribly wrong. Well, it was to no avail. The judgment was put forth by the great eye. The guardian was cast down from the greater omniverse and banished to a single world upon the multiverse he had been originally tasked to watch over. The other two who had been tasked alongside him, their names, by the way, were Zephyrus and Aeolus. They took over his job. Twice as much work as he did. There was no replacement for himself, for you cannot replace a guardian once a guardian is removed from a post. It's never happened before. I mean, this guardian was the first to ever be punished for this indiscretion. Not that it was, not like I said, not that it was a big deal. I mean, you would agree, wouldn't you, that it wasn't a big deal? But it still, I guess, was going against the rules of what he did. And so he remained, to be exiled from his home for 500 billion years, trapped within the great library filled with the knowledge of existence, to remain until his crime had been paid. Firefly, we need to know more details to know, really. So lonely. Well, listen, all I did. Okay, okay, you know this story's about me. All I did was read a few books, and maybe I stopped paying attention to the other people around me. Maybe I stopped, doing my work a little bit. I mean, when you have a copy of Treasure Island, I mean, it's wonderful, these stories. Dr. Zadium, all you did, eh? Oh, listen, you're starting to sound like Zephyrus now. She was on my case the entire time. She warned me about it, but no, I didn't listen. I said, no, the Great Eye wouldn't notice me. No, I'll do just enough that it won't be a problem, and then I kind of forgot what I was doing. I mean, time catches away with you. Julian 20. Books can be dangerous things. Yes, yes, they can be dangerous things. But they're wonderful. I mean, collected stories from across the planet. An invention so marvelous. I mean, from clay tablets to codexes to manuscripts, all of them are wonderful. Plays, dramas, comedies, short stories. They're just marvelous things. And, maybe I did make a little bit of a mess up, but, you know, those things happen, I suppose. Um, as you can tell, it's a bit of a painful memory for me. hmm I've been stuck in the study now for about, oh boy, how long have I been stuck here? Um, that was about 500 years ago, I think. I think. I don't quite remember. I mean, you and your concepts of time are fairly unusual where I come from, which I will be getting to in a second. But yeah, yeah, this has been. It's a sobering story. Remember not to do what I did. Firefly 1824. So you're on house arrest and it's barely started. Yes, it has barely started. I can't. I will not be forgiven until 800 billion years. 500 billion years has passed. So I'm probably going to go through a few universes during that time. Probably should catch up on my reading then. Oh. Any questions, by the way, as of yet? I will happily answer anything you have of me. If not, Julian 20, got your books, you are all good. Yes, yes, I have my books. I am surrounded by my books. And it's a wonderful feeling, but at the same time, you kind of miss home after a while. And you are acutely aware that you can't go home whenever you like now. Which is why I am so appreciative of you scholars. You scholars keep me sane. You keep me going. I mean, it keeps the loneliness at bay. Yes, I remember you, Horace. I'm not trying to insult you. I care about you as well. Julian 20, not a bad thing. No, indeed, not a bad thing. So let me turn a few pages here. I have some information actually more thoroughly on myself now that I will talk about. All right. As you know, my name is Matsu Quinox, or at least that's what your world calls me. My actual name is probably indescribable. Private Mavericks. This book that got you in trouble. It wasn't Fuzzy Wuzzy's Funny Animals pop-up books that most grievous printers error, was it? Um, no, actually. I don't remember the book that got me in trouble in the first place that started it all. It was so long ago. And there is another reason which I will get into in a little bit. And it's the reason I'm able to talk to you all about this at this very moment, in fact. As I said, my name is Matsu Quinox. Well, it's like I said, the name that your world came up for me. I can't remember the exact reason it was developed. It was it was so long ago that it first showed up. Um, but my actual name is absolutely unpronounceable by your by your earthly tongues. Let us put it that way. My age. This is the tricky thing. Um, I am from what you would call the outer omniverse. Now it goes like this: you have as you are well aware, you have your solar system, your galaxy, then you have the universe, and then you have the multiverse, which is a collection of universes. And then you have the omniverse, which is a collection of multiverses. Now, outside the omniverse, that is where I came from. There are higher levels of reality outside of omniverses, collections of omniverses, but I believe they're called panverses. We exist beyond that. We as in my people. Um, we don't, because of that, when you get that far above things, the natural course of what you call reality starts to break down. Think of it like your quantum mechanics. How the farther you go down on in the in farther you go down in exploring sizes and such, the more your physics breaks down. It's the same way. The higher you go through the universes, the more reality breaks down. And when you get to the point where I originated, time does not work the way you probably think. The here and now exists at the precise same moment as that which was and that which will be. Are you following me? I hope so. The last person I tried to explain to, unfortunately, had a very bad migraine, which I won't repeat. Firefly, it is outside of time. It's not just outside of time. It's that we have something close to time, but it's not exactly what you would conceptualize as time. Julian 20, time has no meaning. Basically, I mean, I could be talking to if you were in where I came from, I could be talking to you, and at the same time I'm talking to you, your answer would be talking back to me while the question I said before that is happening at the same time. So all three incidents would be happening at the precise same moment. It's rather comforting actually to know what's about to happen and what happened at the same time. But because of that, age really has no meaning for me. Um, I can guess in some cases when I'm around this form of reality, but it's never going to be precise. So I tend to fudge my age and change it to whatever it is, whatever I want it to be. It makes it easier that way, and it makes it less frightening to the people you're trying to teach. I mean, how would you feel if a random person came up to you and said, "Hello, I am beyond your comprehension in terms of my age"? You'd freak out. And believe me, I know that by experience. Last time I was in Mesopotamia, that happened, and I'm not going to even get into that thing. That was a mess. Aeolus bailed me out of that one. Well, as I was saying, my birthday. As I mentioned, time has no meaning for me. So we guardians tend to choose a birthday just to make it easier and also to make celebrations happen. I mean, who doesn't love a celebration? Even we of the higher realities love a good celebration. And my birthday is February 3rd. I chose February because it is one of the most unusual months in the entire calendar year on your planet. I mean, it's got a day that comes in and out. How freakish is that? And the number 3 because I like the number 3. I mean, 3 is a very important number if you didn't know. Julian 20, I like that month. Oh, I enjoy that month too. My height, I am 188 centimeters, or 6 foot 2. I am actually somewhat short for my people. I knew one who was 8 foot 1. He was very useful for putting the shelves up once in a while. I don't even remember when the last time I saw him. Maybe it was France. I don't remember. It's again so long ago, so many memories, hard to keep track of things. But yes, 6 foot 2. I'm what a lot of people here would call tall. I don't think so. It's really kind of embarrassing. You know that. And the language. When I do streaming, I speak English, of course. I speak English. I have studied Japanese in the past. I can't quite speak it. And I can't quite read it. I can somewhat read it. I'm better at recognizing words than I am at actually reading and speaking it, if that makes any manner of sense to you. I have been really meaning to try and relearn the language. I know it's in my head. I just need to have a bit of a have a bit of a touch up, as it were. My biography. Let's see what does it say about me. An exiled member of the Guardians of Knowledge, Matsu now serves as the librarian to the study, an interdimensional library where all knowledge is stored. He whiles away the time reading and entertaining others, and that's you, my scholars. I entertain you, and you make things so much easier, so I don't get absolutely crazy. Firefly 1824. Have you found your abilities' powers have changed since being punished? A lot of my abilities have been sealed away. I can't do a lot of what I used to be able to do. Um, in fact, the very form you see here, which I will show, actually, I'll go there right now. This is me. This is what I look like. My whole uniform. This form that you see here, my natural form actually is not this. I am an abstract being whose natural form is far beyond the capabilities of regular mortal senses. So this is the near. So what you see here is the nearest equivalent that your mind can actually functionally tell that I am. Most of my abilities and powers, which included, being able to actually change what I look like and some other more, like I said, abstract powers, are for the most part gone now, but in rare cases. Um, that was part of my punishment is I am now stuck in this form till my exile is lifted. This uniform that you see is the typical uniform of the Guardians of Knowledge. We are allowed to customize them a little bit. Sometimes we can change the coloration on the blue, and of course our hair is different colors, and our eyes are different colors as well. Um, the symbol in our chest, of course, shows us as a servant of the Great Eye, and the little stars on the chest as well. They normally can change if you watch them carefully, but mine cannot anymore because of my loss of ability. Julian 20, but it is a fine form. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I I mean, I'm rather proud of my form. I love my green hair, my eyes. I like that. I like that. But it is once in a while, if I overthink things, I do become aware of how small my senses are now, how dulled they are, and it does become a little bit discouraging. It's rather like having a head cold 24/7. You kind of feel a little bit numb in the mind, but most of the time I don't even notice it. Yulian 20, but your senses are so much more than mere mortals. Well, somewhat. Like I said, when I was exiled, a lot of my senses were sealed, so I'm much closer to a mortal's senses than I used to be. Okay, a little bit more information on me. My likes. Books. I love books. I love them, love them, love them, love them, love them. Um, that's what actually got me in trouble in the first place, of course. uh, uh, but I love reading them. I love collecting them. I love old books, new books. I love all manner of books, and I never shy away from trying different books. And I really enjoy, just sometimes just sitting there and opening up a novel and reading it. Cheese. Oh, I love cheese. I adore it. I adore all manner of cheeses. My personal favorite cheese, it's usually the softer variety. I like bries and I like a little more earthy cheeses as well. I find cheese to be one of the better snacks to eat while I'm reading, if I'm careful, mind you. It's my all-time favorite food. So if you've ever seen me post about it on Twitter, you'll know that this is my favorite snack to talk about. Let's see. Tea. I am a tea drinker. I don't like coffee. I have tried coffee, um, and it's never really agreed with me. I mean, you might think that's weird for a multi-dimensional being, but still, it just I've had trouble with it in the past. So tea is my go-to favorite drink. I tend to favor fruit teas. I like red teas, Rubio's teas. I like fruit teas. I like herbal teas. I'm not a fan of caffeine. Caffeine has a strange effect on me, so I tend to avoid it. So I like that little bit of sweetness to it, with a dash of honey. Honey works wonders with tea. I highly recommend it. Wine. I wine is my go-to alcoholic drink if I have to drink alcohol. Um, I prefer white wines. Um, what is the name of that white wine that I really like? Starts with an R. It's on the tip of my tongue. Um, I'll think of it in a second. Riesling. Thank you, Julian20. Riesling. I love Riesling. It's my favorite wine. Um, Another interesting thing about being a multidimensional being, I can get multidimensional beings can get drunk. It just gets really weird when we do. Dr. Zadium rosé. I've had rosés a couple times. I I'm not a fan, but I will drink them. Red wines, I'm not a fan of. I find the sulfates just a little too much, and I'm not a fan of dry wines. I like things a little bit more wet for wine. There was one time I was with Zephyrus and Aeolus. I think we were visiting the Bavarian area. I think. Was it Munich? No, it was the area of Munich, and I had proclaimed to both of them that I would not that I would drink a wine because I thought that it would be easier for me. And poor Zephyrus and Aeolus ended up dragging me up a flight of stairs that evening. They never let me live it down. Oh, that was a fun time. That was a fun time. Firefly 1824, the sweeter the better. Yes, I agree. Sweet wines are excellent. Theater. I This goes hand in hand with the book reading. I love theater. I love plays. I'm a sucker for acting and for theater. I like opera. I didn't include that in there, but I like opera. Opera is what I usually consider the greatest amalgamation of every form of art in the world. Well, every form of the made of different categories of art. I mean, very fond of Shakespeare. Though I prefer his histories to his tragedies and comedies. Um, and I like a lot of other different forms of theater. I'm always on the hunt to try and explore theater, different categories of theater from around the world. That's another thing I have been working on as well. And manga, I like this. After all that highbrow stuff, I like manga. I really enjoy it. Manga and light novels, I really am a fan of those. And if I can't read a book at night, I will read a manga. And I will read them over and over again, my favorites. And I will just I cannot say anything more about that. I'm sure a lot of you scholars also enjoy it, so you know how I feel. Let's see. Dislikes. Mold. Mold gets into everything and ruins books. What else can I say? It's terrible. Terrible. Have to clean that stuff up constantly. Horace helps me, of course. He is a wonderful helper. Firefly 1824. They're just all different types of stories, all these things. Yes, indeed. You can tell a story in multiple ways, and all of them are wonderful. Mashed foods. I don't know why. Maybe it's a side effect of me being in a mortal body. Maybe it's my senses being dulled the way they are, but I cannot stand mashed food. Mashed potatoes just does not agree with me. I've tried it. I've tried to like it. It is awful to me. It's a surefire way to make me just wince. Um, okay, this one's a little bit embarrassing. Bees. So I shall admit I have a phobia of bees, hornets, yellow jackets, and all of their kin. I will panic at the sight of a bee or a hornet or a wasp. Bees I can forgive because they are mostly really kind creatures. They only attack you if they really need to, and it's very much it's a lose lose situation if they try to. Wasps and hornets are just jerks. They'll attack you no matter what. I once had a hornets build a few. No, it was hornets build a nest in the window of one of the rooms of the study, and I stayed out of that place for a month. I could not go and step in there. I had to send Horace and they'd take care of them. Horace didn't speak to me for a month either. After that, speaking of books, going back to the subject of books, my favorite book genres, folklore. As you probably can tell from my streams, I love reading folklore. It's such a compact way, and it's a great way to learn about cultures from around your world. It's just like a compact view of a culture. It's marvelous. Historical fiction. I like fiction set in the past. I find it really entertaining. Um, I don't know why. I just find it easier to read than stories set in what you call the present day. Fantasy. So I would include the science fiction in with this too. I love fantasy and science fiction. I love that form of escapism. I tend to read older things too, though I would love to read some newer books. In fact, I have just started reading the works of Terry Pratchett. I had never read any of his books, believe it or not, and I am thoroughly enjoying them. And on the manga side of things, I love the genre of slice of life. I just find it really comforting, really fun, and really enjoyable. It's a nice, easy thing to read, and it brings me comfort in my more stressful events. And we'll end this little section with a quote of mine. A good book is worth 1,000 reads. A good life, 1,000 experiences. Something I try to live by as best I can. Okay, some information on the study. The study is the home of Matsu Quinox. That's me again. To most observers, it is merely an normal library, but it contains the combined knowledge of the entire universe collected in one location. Every book that ever existed, will exist, or does exist is in this library. Um, Getting access to it is a lot harder though than it might seem. It is as large as the visitor thinks it is. It has no limit in its size. If you can basically say it is of infinite size, it is of infinite size, infinite mass. It can go on and on and on. The more you walk through it, the more rooms show up. Yulian 20. Some claim the study is alive and knows the wishes of its occupants. Um, that I it's Is it sentient? That's a difficult question to answer because if it is, it doesn't communicate to me. Um, but there are times when I feel like it knows what I want, and rooms will move to where I need them, even without me asking. The study contains numerous rooms, each serving a specific purpose. So the rooms, yeah, when it says specific purpose, some of them are purposes I don't even know. I mean, the rooms can get very strange. Outside the normal ones that you are aware of, there are rooms like the weather room, which is in a constant state of a storm. There is the empty house, the prospector's bedroom. Um, what was the other one? The chess ballroom. I'm trying to think of what the other rooms were. The Empress's pool is one of them. There was a room that I recall where it is completely empty except for a stuffed bear in the middle of it. And I don't know what purpose that serves. I've been in it once, and I'll never be in it again. Um, but yeah, there are rooms beyond imagining, and some of the rooms are dangerous, and I don't enter them if I can. But most are somewhat safe. The one in which many visitors are familiar with is the personal study room of Matsu, containing his personal favorite books. Uh, Julian 20, a children's room. There is a children's room. It is not that room. Trust me, it is not that room. So the room you see me broadcasting from most of the time is my personal study. It looks rather bare, but that's only because it's a small part of that room. All the books there are my personal favorite ones that I have picked personally. Although the books will change if I require them to. Matsu can only leave the study for 24 hours and will always find himself returned the very next day no matter what. Yeah, I can't escape this place. I can I can leave the study for a day, but the moment that 24 hours is up, no matter what I do, I will find myself back in the study. Usually to exit the study, you simply have to want to. You'll just open up a door and you'll find yourself in whatever location that you want to go. It works for me like that. It also works the reverse for me like that, in that if I try to go someplace else after 24 hours, as soon as I open up a door or any form of entrance or go through any form of entrance, I will be back in the study. It can be a bit frustrating, but I've somewhat given up on trying to escape. The Codex of Matsu. The most important book in the study, the Codex of Matsu, contains all of Matsu Quinox's knowledge of the omniverse sealed away by the Great Eye. That's the book I have right in front of me, as you can see. Um, that is how I'm able to talk about these things to you. Matsu is allowed to read a page once a day, but the knowledge it provides only remains for that single read. So the moment I close this book, and the moment I leave this room, everything I told you about is gone from my mind. Some of it might remain a little bit, at least the more important things, but the rest of it, all those memories of Zephyrus and Aeolus, all this information about the study and the book, it's all gone. I'll be, I won't be able, I won't be talking about it that then as soon as I leave this place. Hmm. It's a little bit hard to speak tonight. I suppose my mind is a little bit. It's a side effect of opening the book. Sometimes my mind gets a little muddled because so much information is coming back to me. The guardians of knowledge. Well, this is my people. This is who I am. The guardians of knowledge were created by the Great Eye to serve as teachers for the numerous life forms which arose within the multiverse. They are dedicated to their craft, with only one of their numbers having ever turned away from their duty. Yes, thank you. A wonderful reminder of my little slip up. Um, as I mentioned before, my true form is one that can't be observed by the mortal mind. The nearest equivalent is in the picture that you see there, which a few people have been able to sketch, but most are unable to perceive us as we actually are. Oh, any questions, by the way? Any other questions? I hope this information is interesting to you. Um, so one thing some people might ask is if we have families. Um, Firefly 1824. What about horse? I will get to horse in a little bit, actually. Um, some people might ask if we have families. We kind of do. Um, because of the way we exist, we have what we call versal units, which we are facets of, and they are facets of us, while at the same time they are their own individuals. So I have, for instance, I do have a mamaversal unit who is what you would term a mother, but she is at the same time a part of me as I am a part of her. She is an aspect of Matsu Quinox, while I am an aspect of her, as it were. So it is. I guess you could say that I've got parents, but they kind of aren't. It's very hard for me to translate outer omniversal terms to something that can be understood. Very difficult. Otherwise, as I said, only there are only three guardians to each multiverse. When we were created, that was what the that was the concept that was made. Um, when a a when a guardian fails, I'm the only one who has failed. Lucky me. When a guardian fails, I was removed from my job. As I said before, that means the other two, Aeolus and Zephyrus, had to take up my work, which I am certain they are not happy about. Unfortunately, I can't help it. Not sure if they'll ever forgive me for that one. Um, but there are no replacements for any of us. We are it, basically. And on the question, if you want to know how long do we last as a people, I suppose I'm not going to use the term that you mortals use. Um, we will probably last forever. I mean, there really isn't any end to us. As long as there's a concept of knowledge, then we have a job and we will be there. I've never really thought of the end. I rather not. But as far as I understand, we we will not, you know. go away, as it were. Can we get sick? Yeah, we can. We can if but it's mostly through convenience to seem more like you mortals than it is for anything else. And here is your question, Firefly. Horace, my dear wonderful friend Horace. I'll let him take this one. Fascinating. Yep. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Firefly. Um, so I'm sure I hope that everything Horace said just now is something that everyone would understood. If not, I'll just translate. Horace is Matsu Quinox's companion and assistant in the study. His origins are unknown, even to the master librarian. This is very true. He simply appeared one day, though Matsu believes he comes from one of the higher dimensions. It's actually kind of a funny story. It's about 400 years ago, I want to say. I was working in the what was the room? I'm trying to remember what so long ago. Um, I think it wasn't the codex room. It wasn't the desert of texts. Um, it was. Oh, it was the alchemist study. That was it. That was it. The alchemist study. I was going through and fixing up a few of the scrolls in that room, and I reached for one of the scrolls, and it bit me. Um, and I was a little bit perturbed. And the next thing I know, the scroll's floating around me and introduces itself as Horace. And we've been friends ever since, haven't we, Horace? I told you I'd pay you back next week. What? What do you even need money for? What are you going to use it for? Oh, come on, really? We'll talk about this after the stream. Fine. Firefly 1824. Did you find a copy of Monster Books Book of Monsters? We do have a copy. We do have a copy. I have had to bandage my hands more than once thanks to that book. I have started using tongs to pick that one out of the shelves. But yes, I believe Horus comes from one of the higher dimensions. Maybe not necessarily the one I come from, but at least somewhere close. The seal he wears, I actually gave to him as a token of our friendship. Um, and on a side note, just to be a little meta here, Horus was designed by Satsuma. I'm trying to remember the name. So, wonderful artist, and I'm greatly appreciative of being able to use this design. Thank you so much. Um, he speaks in a language only Matsu can understand. Yes. I'm sorry if I confused you earlier. I forget that he talks in one of the upper reality languages. So more than likely you can't hear it. It is at least five layers above the normal vocal ranges of any living creature. Um, And I'll tell you this, Horace, is he listening? He will not shut up sometimes. It is so weird. I didn't say anything to Horace. I wasn't saying anything bad about you. I'm sorry. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. I didn't say anything bad, did I? Did I, my dear scholars? Horace is a wonderful, wonderful person. He has a love of honey for some strange reason. I've never understood this. He adores honey. I mean, he there the the beekeeper's lounge is one of his favorite rooms to go to, and I've left him to his devices there. And it's something I don't understand. I mean, he is, for all extents and purposes, he's made of paper, and yet he loves eating honey. It's his favorite food. Um, so I didn't get to it. Unfortunately I didn't create a slide to it, but I should talk about Private Maverick. Well, it is a natural sweetener. I should talk about book squids. Jewelry jelly. How does he eat? How does he eat? Horace, can you enlighten Jewelry jelly on that? Okay, there's your answer, Jewelry jelly. I hope that is satisfying. I believe well, well, he uses a mouth. He has a mouth, after all, but I'm not sure where the actual food goes. It just kind of disappears. Julian 20, does he eat osmotically? I don't know. I try not to think of these things. Horace is strange enough as is. He I don't even know if he sleeps. I think I saw him once sleep, but I can't tell. It's sometimes it's a little bit disconcerting how much I don't know about him. But the fact that he sticks with me no matter what is very comforting. And he's such a good help whenever I need any help in the library. The study, I should say. Well, it is a library, so it counts. Um, so I should mention the book squids. I unfortunately don't have a picture of them. I tried to take a picture earlier today, and I was very lucky to get out of that room with my skin on. Book squids. They are, without a doubt, the most dangerous and irritating thing I have ever encountered. If you're wondering what a book squid looks like, it looks like a book with tentacles and a single red eye, and its leather cover is covered in pulsating veins. They tend to live in swarms, and they will hide in bookshelves. And when people get near, they will attack. They'll swarm you. They'll grab onto you. They can't really. Well, I don't know if they can bite, but it doesn't really hurt too much. I mean, you can get sick off them. You can get sick off them if you get any of their slime on your skin. I don't have a picture, unfortunately. Like I said, I tried to get one, and unfortunately, I just couldn't manage it. Um, the and the sound they make, they make I want you to imagine this. The sound a book squid makes, it sounds like heavy labored breathing. Just like this. I'm not gonna make the sound out because it might come across badly here, but it's a very heavy, labored, deep breathing, and it's really it's not fun. I mean, once in a while, me and Horace have to go to some of the other rooms to clean them out. Usually, all it takes is a broom. I mean, I whack them with a broom, send them flying off. Um, they come from one of the other dimensions. I have this I have this feeling sometimes that they followed me in my exile. I don't know, but they are a real pest to deal with, and once in a while, if I happen to have to cancel streams or something, you can probably guess it's the book squids causing problems. Uh, they can interfere with dimensions also. If you get too many book squids in one location, they'll cause all sorts of dimensional issues. I mean, you'll pop out of existence for like a brief second, or the room will turn upside down, or you'll have hallucinations. Too many. That's why you have to get rid of them as fast as you can. Too many of them in one spot will could cause a what was it called? A temporal dimensional collapse. Most of the time, though, you can easily deal with them. Like I said, a broom, swine at them, kicking them out, any of that, that'll work for them. Um, so I have come to the end of my book. So, are there any questions that you wish to ask me? Otherwise, I do have a story I would like to read tonight. But first, any other further questions? I'm open to any questions about myself, or about Horus, or about the study, or about the Guardians of Knowledge, or about even the Great Eye. I can answer a few maybe questions. Julian 20, this was brilliant. Oh, I thank you for your kind words. It's very hard to make. I thought, since I had known you scholars for so long now, I was feeling more comfortable to I was feeling more comfortable in sharing with you my secrets. Dr. Zadium, that galaxy kind of looks like the Great Eye. Um, there's a reason for that. The Great Eye exists outside everything. But because the Great Eye because the Omniverse emerged from the Great Eye, it left imprints within the design of the Omniverse. More specifically, spirals. So, spirals are simply an imprint left within your mind of the Great Eye. If that helps you, I hope that didn't creep you out. I mean, I know some people get a little bit worried when they hear about such things. Dr. Zadium. Uh-oh, this means Junji Ito is an expression of the Great Eye. Um, I will not deny that. There are some secrets I must keep from you, unfortunately. Any other questions? I can answer any question you wish. Otherwise, I can start reading a little bit just to close out our little talk. Time Sage, we need like the X-Files theme playing right now or something. Firefly 1824 VFD. What is VFD? Firefly 1824, what is VFD? I'm now curious. Well, I suppose that's a mystery as in itself. Firefly 1824, it's a group with an eye symbol from a series of unfortunate events. How interesting. I shall have to investigate that. Yes, well. Any other questions? Oh yes, 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 Dr. Zadium. It can take up to 30 seconds for messages to flow from our plane to yours. Yes, that is another thing. With the study, I am well aware that sometimes there is a certain lag within between the layers of reality. That's kind of the funny thing with the study. The study itself exists in its own plane of reality. It exists on your world, but at the same time, it does not exist on your world. I believe the term you mortals would use is a pocket dimension. It is a infinite sized pocket dimension within your dimension. Firefly 1824, which I highly recommend you read slash watch. The Netflix series, not the movie. Okay, I shall put that on my list. Oh, a little fun fact there. We actually do have a movie theater within the study. Perhaps someday we shall visit that one. At least I hope so. That is one of the most disconcerting. I use the word disconcerting a lot tonight, but it is true. Um, Often when I am asked what category of being am I, it is very difficult for me to answer that question because I am not celestial. I'm not what you would call an angel or a demon or a magical being. I suppose for some, I'd be above that. I'm, well, I am me. And it can be somewhat difficult because it is a very lonely feeling, as it were, to know that I am, well, I suppose to some, a little bit unique in that regard. Although I am always happy to meet other interdimensional beings as well. Well, dear mortals, shall we close out this fine learning experience with a story? It's a longer one, but it is my favorite. Julian 20, yes, please. Hmm. I thank you all, by the way, for listening to me and understanding. It's been so long since I've been able to share this with anyone. A very long time. And so to know that you scholars are willing to open your minds and your understanding to who I am and what I am brings great joy to me. But as I said, there is a story that is quite my favorite, and it's a folk tale. Um, and it is called. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. Called East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Have any of you mortals heard of it? Dr. Zadian, we're happy to know you. Oh, I'm happy to know you all as well. And I hope that we will continue this great friendship far into the future, for however long it may be. Yulian 20, your favorite. Ah, I'm so glad to hear that. Dr. Zadium, I know the name. Ah, I see, I see. Well, perhaps I think I'll read it to you then. It's the book I'm reading it from, that I shall be reading it from, will be called the Blue Fairy Book. Do you think perhaps we should exit this setting and move on back to our other room, or do you think we should stay here for now? I am fine either way. Julian 20, sure. uh, oh, that is so funny. Julian 20, move on. What say the rest of you? I like to allow my allow you mortals a chance to have your say in what I do. Dr. Zadium, New York abstains. Ah, I see. Somehow I am not surprised. Quite amusing, isn't it not? Is it not, Julian 20? Perhaps though, Julian 20, I love that. Ah, ha ha ha. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm glad that Zadium was able to amuse you. I think maybe I should stay here though for now. It's just a excellent way. It's easier that way. Less confusing to us. So this story is east of the sun, west of the moon. Once upon a time there was a poor husbandman who had many children and little to give them in the way of either food or clothing. They were all pretty, but the prettiest of all was the youngest daughter, who was so beautiful that there were no bounds to her beauty. So once it was late on a Thursday evening in autumn, and wild weather outside, terribly dark, and raining so heavily, and blowing so hard that the winds of the cottage shook again. They were all sitting together by the fireside, each of them busy with something or other, when suddenly someone rapped 3 times against the window pane. The man went out to see what could be the matter, and when he got out, there stood a great big white bear. "Good evening to you," said the white bear. "Good evening," said the man. "Will you give me your youngest daughter?" said the white bear. "If you will, you shall be as rich as you are now poor." Truly the man would have no objection to be rich, but he thought to himself, "I must first ask my daughter about this." So he went in and told them that there was a great white bear outside, who had faithfully promised to make them all rich if he might but have the youngest daughter. She said no, and would not hear of it. So the man went out again, and settled with the white bear that he should come again next Thursday evening, and get her answer. Then the man persuaded her, and talked so much to her about the wealth that they would have, and what a good thing it would be for herself, that at last she made up her mind to go, and washed and mended all her rags, made herself as smart as she could, and held herself in readiness to set out. Little enough had she to take away with her. Next Thursday evening the white bear came to fetch her. She seated herself on his back with her bundle, and thus they departed. When they had gone a great part of the way, the white bear said, "Are you afraid?" "No, that I am not," said she. "Keep tight hold of my fur, and then there is no danger," said he. And thus she rode far, far away until they came to a great mountain. Then the white bear knocked on it, and a door opened, and they went into a castle, where there were many brilliantly lighted rooms, which shone with gold and silver, likewise a large hall in which there was a well spread table, and it was so magnificent that it would be hard to make anyone understand how splendid it was. The white bear gave her a silver bell, and told her that when she needed anything, she had but to ring this bell, and what she wanted would appear. So after she had eaten, so after she had eaten, and night was drawing near, she grew sleepy after her journey, and thought she would like to go to bed. She rang the bell, and scarcely had she touched it, before she found herself in a chamber, where a bed stood ready made for her, which was as pretty as anyone could wish to sleep in. It had pillows of silk and curtains of silk fringed with gold, and everything that was in the room was of gold or silver. But when she had lain down and put out the light, a man came and lay down beside her. And behold, it was the white bear, who cast off the form of a beast during the night. She never saw him, however, for he always came after she had put out her light, and went away before daylight appeared. So all went well and happily for a time. But then she began to be very sad and sorrowful, for all day long she had to go about alone, and she did so wish to go home to her father and mother and brothers and sisters. Then the white bear asked what it was she wanted, and she told him that it was so dull there in the mountain, and that she had to go about all alone, and that in her parents' house, or at home, there were all her brothers and sisters, and it was because she could not go to them that she was sorrowful. "There might be a cure for that," said the white bear, "but if you would but promise me never to talk with your mother alone, but only when the others are there too, for she will take hold of your hand," he said, "and will want to lead you into a room to talk with you alone. But you must by no means do, or you will bring great misery on both of us." So one Sunday the white bear came, and said that they could now set out to see her father and mother, and they journeyed thither, she sitting on his back, and they went a long, long way, and it took a long, long time, but at last they came to a large white farmhouse, and her brothers and sisters were running about outside it, playing, and it was so pretty that it was a pleasant pleasure to look at it. "Your parents dwell here now," said the white bear, "but do not forget what I said to you, or you will do much harm both to yourself and me." "No, indeed," said she, "I shall never forget." And as soon as she was at home, the white bear turned round and went back again. There was much rejoicing when she went in to her parents, that it seemed as if they would never come to an end. Everyone thought that he could never be sufficient. Everyone thought they could never be sufficiently grateful to her for all she had done for them all. Now they had everything they wanted, and everything was as good as it could be. They all asked her how she was getting on where she was. All was well with her too, she said, and she had everything she could want. What other answers she gave I cannot say, but I am pretty sure that they did not learn much from her. But in the afternoon, after they had dined at midday, all happened just as the white bear had said. Her mother wanted to talk with her alone in her own chamber, but she remembered what the white bear had said, and would on no account go. "What we have to say can be said at any time," she answered. But somehow or other her mother at last persuaded her, and she was forced to tell the whole story. So she told how every night a man came and lay down beside her when the lights were all put out, and how she never saw him, because he always went away before it grew light in the morning, and how she continually went about in sadness, thinking how happy she would be if she could but see him, and how all day long she had to go about alone, and it was so dull and solitary. "Oh!" cried the mother in horror, "you are very likely sleeping with a troll, but I will teach you a way to see him. You shall have a bit of one of my candles, which you can take away with you hidden in your breast. Look at him with that when he is asleep, but take care not to let any tallow drop upon him." Excuse me. So she took the candle and hid it in her breast, and when evening drew near, the white bear came to fetch her away. When they had gone some distance on their way, the white bear asked her if everything had not happened just as he had foretold, and she could not but own that it had. "Then, if you have done what your mother wished," said he, "you have brought great misery on both of us." "No," she said, "I have not done anything at all." So when she had reached home and had gone to bed, it was just the same as it had been before, and a man came and lay down beside her, and late at night when she could hear that he was sleeping, she got up and kindled a light, lit her candle, let her light shine upon on him, and saw him. And he was the handsomest prince that eyes ever beheld, and she loved him so much that it seemed to her that she must die if she did not kiss him that very moment. So she did kiss him, but while she was doing it, she let 3 drops of hot tallow fall upon his shirt, and he awoke. "What have you done now?" said he. "You have brought misery on both of us. If you had but held out for the space of 1 year, it should have been free. I should have been free. I have a stepmother who has bewitched me, so I am a white bear by day and a man by night. But now all is at an end between you and me, and I must leave you and go to her. She lives in a castle which lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and there too is a princess with a nose which is 3 ells long, and she now is the one whom I must marry." She wept and lamented, but all in vain, for go he must. Then she asked him if she could not go with him, but no, that could not be. "Can you tell me the way then, and I will seek you, that I may surely be allowed to do." "Yes, you may do that," said he, "but there is no way thither. It lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and never would you find your way there." When she awoke in the morning, both the prince and the castle were gone, and she was lying on a small green patch in the midst of a dark, thick wood. By her side lay the self-same bundle of rags which she had brought with her from her own home. So when she had rubbed the sleep out of her eyes, and wept till she was weary, she set out on her way, and thus she walked for many and many a long day, until at last she came to a great mountain. Outside it, an aged woman was sitting playing with a golden apple. The girl asked her if she knew the way to the prince who lived with his stepmother in the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and who was to marry a princess with a nose which was 3 ells long. "How do you happen to know about this?" inquired the old woman. "Maybe you are she who ought to have had him." "Yes, indeed I am," she said. "So it is you, then?" "So it is you, then," said the old woman. "I know nothing about him but that he dwells in a castle which is east of the sun and west of the moon. You will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you can get to it at all. But you shall have the loan of my horse, and then you can ride on it to an old woman who is a neighbor of mine. Perhaps she can tell you about him. When you have got there, you must just strike the horse behind the left ear, and bid it go home again. But you may take the golden apple with you." So the girl seated herself on the horse, and rode for a long, long way, and at last she came to the mountain, where an aged woman was sitting outside with a gold carding comb. The girl asked her if she knew the way to the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, but she said what the first old woman had said.
I know nothing about it, but that it is east of the sun and west of the moon, and that you will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get there at all. But you shall have the loan of my horse to an old woman who lives the nearest to me. Perhaps she may know where the castle is, and when you have got to her, you may just strike the horse behind the left ear, and bid it go home again.
Then she gave her the gold carding comb, for it might, perhaps, be of use to her, she said. So the girl seated herself on the horse, and rode a wearisome long way onward again. And after a long time, where am I? And after a very long time, she came to a great mountain, where an aged woman was sitting, spinning at a gold spinning wheel. Of this woman too she inquired if she knew the way to the prince, and where to find the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But it was only the same thing once again.
Maybe it was you who should have had the prince, said the old woman.
Yes, indeed, I should have been the one, said the girl. But this old crone knew the way no better than the others. It was east of the sun and west of the moon. She knew that.
And you will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get to it at all, she said. But you may have the loan of my horse, and I think you had better ride to the east wind and ask him. Perhaps he may know where the castle is, and will blow you thither. But when you have got to him, you must just strike the horse behind the left ear, and it will come home again.
And then she gave her the golden spinning wheel, saying,
Perhaps you may find that you have use for it.
The girl had to ride for a great many days, and for a long and wearisome time, before she got there. But at last she did arrive. And then she asked the East Wind if he could tell her the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. Well, said the East Wind, I have heard tell of the prince and of his castle, but I do not know the way to it, for I have never blown so far. But if you like, I will go with you to my brother, the West Wind. He may know that, for he is much stronger than I am. You may sit on my back, and then I will carry you there. So she seated herself on his back, and they did go so swiftly. When they got there, the East Wind went in and said that the girl whom he had brought was the one who ought to have had the prince up at the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and that now she was traveling about to find him again, so that he had come there with her, and would like to hear if the West Wind knew whereabouts the castle was. No, said the West Wind, so far as that have I never blown. But if you like, I will go with you to the South Wind, for he is much stronger than either of us, and he has roamed far and wide, and perhaps he can tell you what you want to know. You may seat yourself on my back, and then I will carry you to him. So she did this, and journeyed to the South Wind, neither was she very long on the way. When they had got there, the West Wind asked him if he could tell her the way to the castle that lay east of the sun and west of the moon, for she was the girl who ought to marry the prince who lived there. Oh, indeed, said the South Wind, is that she? Well, said he, I have wandered about a great deal in my time, and in all kinds of places, but I have never blown so far as that. If you like, however, I will go with you to my brother, the North Wind. He is the oldest and strongest of all of us, and if he does not know where it is, no one in the whole world will be able to tell you. You may sit upon my back, and then I will carry you there. So she seated herself on his back, and off he went from his house in great haste, and they were not long on the way. When they came near the North Wind's dwelling, he was so wild and frantic that they felt cold gusts a long while before they got there. "What do you want?" he roared out from afar, and they froze as they heard. Said the South Wind, "It is I, and this is she who should have had the prince who lives in the castle, which lies east of the sun and west of the moon. And now she wishes to ask you if you have ever been there, and can tell her the way, for she would gladly find him again." "Yes," said the North Wind, "I know where it is. I once blew an aspen leaf there, but I was so tired that for many days afterwards I was not able to blow at all. However, if you really are anxious to go there, and are not afraid to go with me, I will take you on my back, and try if I can blow you there." "Get there I must," said she, "and if there is any way of going I will, and I have no fear, no matter how fast you go." "Very well, then," said the North Wind, "but you must sleep here tonight, for if we are ever to get there, we must have the day before us." The North Wind woke her betimes next morning, and puffed himself up, and made himself so big and so strong that it was frightful to see him. And away they went high up through the air, as if they would not stop until they had reached the very end of the world. Down below there was such a storm. It blew down woods and houses, and when they were above the sea the ships were wrecked by hundreds. And thus they tore on, and a long time went by, and then yet more time passed, and still they were above the sea, and the North Wind grew tired and more tired, and last so utterly weary that he was scarcely able to blow any longer, and he sank and sank, lower and lower, until at last he went so low that the crests of the waves dashed against the heels of the poor girl he was carrying. "Art thou afraid?" said the North Wind. "I have no fear," said she, and it was true. But they were not very, very far from land, and there was just enough strength left in the North Wind to enable him to throw her onto the shore, immediately under the windows of a castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But then he was so weary and worn out that he was forced to rest for several days before he could go to his own home again. Next morning she sat down beneath the walls of the castle to play with the golden apple, and the first person she saw was the maiden with the long nose, who was to have the prince.
"How much do you want for that golden apple of yours, girl?" said she, opening the window.
"It can't be bought either for gold or money," answered the girl.
If it cannot be bought either for gold or money, what will buy it? You may say what you please," said the princess.
"Well, if I may go to the prince who is here and be with him tonight, you shall have it," said the girl, who had come with the North Wind.
"You may do that,"
said the princess, for she had made up her mind that she would do what she would do. So the princess got the golden apple, but when the girl went up to the prince's apartment that night he was asleep, for the princess had so contrived it. The poor girl called to him and shook him, and between whiles she wept, but she could not wake him. In the morning, as soon dawn, as day dawned, in came the princess with the long nose, and drove her out again. In the daytime she sat down once more beneath the windows of the castle, and began to card with her golden carding comb, and then all happened as it had happened before. The princess asked her what she wanted for it, and she replied that it was not for sale, either for gold or money, but that if she could get leave to go to the prince, and be with him during the night, she should have it. But when she went up to the prince's room, he was again asleep, and let her call him, or shake him, or weep as she would, he still slept on, and she could not put any life in him. When daylight came in the morning, the princess with the long nose came too, and once more drove her away. When day had quite come, the girl seated herself under the castle windows to spin with her golden spinning wheel, and the princess with the long nose wanted to have that also. So she opened the window and asked what she would take for it. The girl said what she had said on each of the former occasions, that it was not for sale either for gold or for money, but if she could get leave to go to the prince who lived there, and he be with him during the night, she would have it.
Yes, said the princess, I will gladly consent to that.
But in that place there were some Christian folk who had been carried off, and they had been sitting in the chamber which was next to that of the prince, and had heard how a woman had been in there who had wept and called on him 2 nights running, and they told the prince of this. So that evening, when the princess came once more with her sleeping drink, he pretended to drink, but threw it away behind him, for he suspected that it was a sleeping drink. So when the girl went into the prince's room this time, he was awake, and she had to tell him how she had come there. "You have come just in time," said the prince, "for I should have been married tomorrow. But I will not have the long-nosed princess, and you alone can save me. I will say that I want to see what my bride can do, and bid her wash the shirt which has the 3 drops of tallow on it. This she will consent to do, for she does not know that it is you who let them fall on it. But no one can wash them out but one born of Christian folk. It cannot not be done by one of a pack of trolls, and then I will say that no one shall ever be my bride but the woman who can do this, and I know that you can." There was great joy and gladness between them all that night, but the next day, when the wedding was to take place, the prince said, "I must see what my bride can do."
That you may do, said the stepmother.
"I have a fine shirt which I want to wear as my wedding shirt, but 3 drops of tallow have got upon it, which I want to have washed off. And I have vowed to marry no one but the woman who is able to do it. If she cannot do that, she is not worth having." Well, that was a very small matter, they thought, and agreed to do it. The princess with the long nose began to wash as well as she could, but the more she washed and rubbed, the larger the spots grew.
"Ah, you can't wash at all," said the old troll hag, who was her mother. "Give it to me."
But she too had not had the shirt very long in her hands before it looked worse still, and the more she washed it and rubbed it, the larger and blacker grew the spots. So the other trolls had to come and wash, but the more they did, the blacker and uglier grew the shirt, until at length it was as black as if it had been up the chimney. "Oh," cried the prince, "not one of you is good for anything at all. There is a beggar girl sitting outside the window, and I'll be bound that she can wash better than any of you. Come in, you girl there," he cried. So she came in. "Can you wash this shirt clean?" he cried. "Oh, I don't know," she said, "but I will try." And no sooner had she taken the shirt and dipped it in the water than it was white as driven snow, and even whiter than that. "I will marry you," said the prince. Then the old troll hag flew into such a rage that she burst, and the princess with the long nose and all the little trolls must have burst too, for they have never been heard of since. The prince and his bride set free all the Christian folk who were imprisoned there, and took away with them all the gold and silver that they could carry, and moved far away from the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. That is quite my favorite story. And as for this story this night, I believe it is finished. But our story will continue, my dear friends, my dear scholars. Our story will continue on. Julian 20, fabulous story. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Julian 20, thank you so much. No, thank you, all you wonderful scholars, all you wonderful friends. Private Maverick neat story. Oh, thank you. Um, Our next stream will not be for another week, for I will be taking a week off due to some business I must attend to. Dr. Zadium, thank you. No, thank you. And thank you all for coming. The night draws on, or the morning, depending on where you are. And I think it is time to close off this telling of my story, this telling of my legend and my lore. I am honored and grateful for all who came. Until next we meet, my friends, my scholars, goodbye, good day, good afternoon, and good morning. Farewell to you all. May you have a wonderful time. Till we meet again, take care, and bye bye.